Welcome to the Seeking Numina podcast, the Sacred Places podcast. And I'm your host, Elise Wells. Today, we are traveling to Poland to learn about Polish folk practices with Joanna Tarnawska. Did I say your name correctly?
Tarnawska, yeah, pretty close.
Okay, okay. Joanna Tarnawska is an animist, folkloric witch, and psychologist residing in the mountains of Lower Silesia, Poland. Her practice intertwines animism, bioregional traditions, and lore, drawing inspiration from the early modern period of Polish witch trials and Slavic folklore. With a strong foundation in anthropology and ethnography, Joanna's work explores the deep connections between pre and post Christian folklore and witchcraft traditions. She contributes articles to Femme Occult magazine and runs The Polish Folk Witch, a platform on YouTube, Instagram, and all over the internet, where she shares her knowledge through courses and group studies on Polish folk magic, animism, and traditional witchcraft. And we've been following each other on socials for a while now, and it feels good to finally be chatting. And I'm so excited for your book, Polish Folk Magic, coming out with Crossed Crow soon. Like it'll be here probably by the time this episode comes out. So I'm very excited for people to read it. Welcome to Seeking Numina. I'm your host, Elise Wells, and I invite you to connect with the sacred wild within and around you through Numina, or sacred sites around the world, and the wisdom they hold. Together, let's remember the old ways, build relationships with land spirits, and dare to reach out to the fairies. The sacred wild is inviting you to dance in the moonlight. Will you answer their call?
Thank you
And
so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on here.
yeah, and I feel like so I went to Poland in June for the first time, and it was an incredible experience. I've enjoyed traveling through the more eastern parts of Europe in the past. But Poland was even better than I expected. Like I knew I was going to enjoy myself, but the people were amazing. The land was so powerful, and it's such a varied landscape. So, like your region of Poland, I didn't get down there, unfortunately. So I know it's probably even more different. Like it just has, you have a lot of spirits of place in Poland, that keep it different, you know?
Which regions did you go to? I'm just like curious.
Yeah, we went to Warsaw, then Krakow, and in between that, we went to Torun, and we also went down outside of Krakow. We went to the caves, the salt caves with the Mary
Oh, you mean
Magdalene statue.
the
The
mines
mines,
in
yeah.
Gliwice, probably. That's
Yeah.
amazing. So you did get a bit of everything really when it comes to like central-ish Poland at least. So that's amazing.
Yeah. And we did this one all with trains and public transport. So we didn't rent a car. So that kind of limited us. But I think next time I really want to go to the border with Slovakia where you have these, I don't know what they're called, but they remind me of Meteora in Greece. These like huge rocks that almost look like dolmens, but only placed by a god. You know, they're just so big. So I really want to visit there next. But Poland has that quality, that Fey-like quality where it just draws you, like you want to go more, you want to explore. So yeah, I guess that's my first question is how does the landscape of Poland or the environment, you know, the animals, the creatures, the flowers, the plants, how does that influence your practice?
How does it not? I feel like it's in everything we do here. And when it comes to like Polish folk practices in general, this is a vast topic, of course, right? But I feel like everything we do is land-based, really, because it's very agrarian in nature. So if you look at the like typical Polish folkloric traditions, and it's the community rituals or like the folk magic, all of it is really land-based. It's rooted in this connection with what you have locally in terms of like the actual landscape. There's spaces like the wayside shrines, the sacred rocks, the miraculous springs, sacred trees, specific bald mountains, and so on, which are still to this day a lot of the times believed to be connected to some local spirits. Often because Poland is Catholic, those spirits would be syncretized with figures of saints or figures of folkloric Marys, sometimes folkloric devils as well. So I feel like this is still very much present in just the kind of casual cultural landscape, especially in rural areas. Of course, in big cities, people have kind of moved on from that kind of traditional worldview. But yeah, when you really go down to practice any kind of land-based spirituality and you know this and that about Polish folk culture, you will just notice it everywhere, really. And growing up in Poland, a lot of the times you don't kind of notice it. It's kind of like the air you breathe. But then the more you explore, the more you find out that even the things your grandma did were kind of, related to working with land spirits in one way or another. So I find that really beautiful. It kind of helps you feel at home with your practice and not like you need to reinvent it every time you want to approach the land spirits. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool.
It makes me think too, the cities, of course, like all cities, like Greece is no exception. We have a lot of Orthodoxy has so many pagan traditions that have just continued and been syncretized. And but Athens, it does have more city vibes and it's the same, I guess, everywhere in the world. However, in Poland, in Warsaw, the spirit that guards the city is a mermaid. And
Oh
that is
yeah.
pretty special. So lots of spirits of place still revered. And I think something I learned when I was in Poland that really struck home for me is, especially coming from Greece. In Greece, Christianity was there from the beginning. Like the books of the Bible were preached in Greece for the first time. So Greece has been a Christian country longer than most places in the world. Whereas Poland and Lithuania, particularly Lithuania, when they had their, I guess, Commonwealth together, I forget what the official word was, but Lithuania was the absolute last place for Christianity to come in all of Europe. And I think that so the difference is literally about 1600 years of less Christian propaganda
And you
in
can tell,
Lithuania.
right?
And you can tell it's in the way people talk to each other, the way the city's decorated, like the murals and friezes people choose to paint. Like it just everything about it is more grounded in its past in a continued way. Like you said, like it's just you don't have to reach to reconstruct things. It's already there.
Yeah, that's very true. Although many people don't like the Christian influences that exist, so there are many reconstructionists, especially among pagans, who prefer, to kind of rid their practices of those syncretized elements, right? But still, if it's not necessary to practice any land-based spirituality, animism, or magic to have to reconstruct, right? To achieve that. So, but that's a really good point with the mermaid in Warsaw. I live in southwestern Poland, so that's a few hours drive from Warsaw. But it's true that many cities in Poland, actually, now that you mention it, it kind of came to mind as well. Many cities in Poland do have those figures, folkloric figures that seem to be the pride of the place, that seem to represent either like the spirit of the big river that flows through the city, or sometimes, for example, in Wrocław, which is very close to where I live, it's a bigger city as well. We have like gnomes all over the city, statues of little gnomes who kind of represent the, I guess, spirit of place in a way, right? And many of the cities that lay by the Odra River as well have some kind of form of commemorating the spirit of the Odra River, who is known as Viadrus. So that's, yeah, it's something that's kind of present and ingrained just in everything. So as I was mentioning, you sometimes don't even notice it as something that's distinct, I suppose. And for you, as somebody who was visiting, maybe it's more prominent in that way as well. So that's really cool to hear, your perspective as well, because it's kind of refreshing to be able to hear what people pay attention to that we perhaps don't even notice because it's so normalized.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that was like moving back to Greece full time after spending most of my life in other countries. It was very the same way. Like, I feel like there's a lot of Greek pagans I've gotten to know that are like, yeah, but that's just, and I'm like, no, that's pretty witchy. Like, that's actually awesome. There's so many basic folk traditions in Greece that everybody follows. Like, everybody always is warding off evil eye from each other. You've got basil growing in front of every business and home for prosperity and protection. That's beautiful. It's just so ingrained. Yeah, so I wanted to ask too, like, are there any particular places in nature that you've gone in Poland that you've really felt the spirits of place, the land spirits meeting you there?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's plenty, especially in the places where I grew up, but really the place where I live now. I feel like I chose to call it my home, this place, this region, for a reason. And it's because of the land spirits. It's one of the reasons, right? I actually live, as I was saying, in the southwestern Poland, next to the Ślęża mountain. And this mountain is actually a place of cult that dates back to the Bronze Age. And it's very special. The spirits of the mountains here. Next to Ślęża, we also have a Radunia mountain, which also similarly is a long time place of cult, way before the Slavs even came here, right? Bronze Age was a really long time ago. There were no Slavs at that point in history even. So people revered the spirits of place here for a very, very, very long time. When I connect with the land spirits here, you can tell that they are very distinct. There's some legends that survived because you also need to know that this place kind of changed hands in between countries. It belonged to Poland, to the Czechs, and to the Germans over the centuries. So there's a cultural mixture, but still the legends survived of battles of certain types of spirits with each other who created this mountain as a result of those battles. And this entire shaping of the tectonic, layers and everything, all of that is steeped in those legends of those local spirits. So, for example, the Ślęża mountain has a very, very prominent bear spirit, and it's represented by a stone statue of a bear that stands on the very top of the mountain, which dates back to I think 400 to 200 BCE, something like that.
Wow.
And many people to this day come to the mountain as a kind of pilgrimage to, pay their respects, to leave offerings at the top of the mountain by the bear or somewhere where it can be found by, travelers. And the same with the Radunia mountain next to it as well, which is very special. And I have a kind of special relationship because of the experiences I had with it and with, you could say, traveling inside of the mountain and exploring the inner world of the mountain. It's kind of strange to put these things into words, but yeah, this place, I'm really rooted in it, and the spirits that reside here just feel very close to heart. And it's interesting to also, because I am a huge nerd, I really love exploring lore and knowing what people before me experienced. If there's any records of anything that I can get to and find out about this place. And actually, it's interesting because I just a couple months ago stumbled upon some records of an occultist who was living here back, I think in the 18th century or 17th century even. If I'm not mistaken, back when this place was in Germany. And he actually had very similar experiences with dwelling inside the mountain, going into the spirits that live there. And, when I was comparing my own personal gnosis with that from a few centuries ago from that occultist, I was really floored to see so many similarities. So it's just something that I'm very passionate about, actually just digging up those sources as well. And it's not easy if you don't speak German. I don't, unfortunately. So, it's kind of by chance that I stumbled upon this. And but other than the mountains themselves, there's also like sacred springs here. For example, one spring that's dedicated to Saint Świerad, and everybody in the local community tends to go there to gather water and just drink it because it's believed to have healing properties. We also have burial mounds here from the 8th century, from one of the first Slavic tribes who settled here by the mountain. And it's really beautiful to be able to go there and actually, just be present with those spirits. They have so much to teach. I've been living here for almost a decade now, and previously in Wrocław, which is the city close by, so longer than that in total in the region. But still, I can't get over how amazing the spirits here are. It's just something that I guess you just know it never gets old. So yeah, this is just like a
Yeah.
gist of what's out here. Yeah.
It's amazing. Could you, if you feel comfortable, are there any stories you could tell us about times that you encountered the land spirits in Poland? What do they feel like?
Just across Poland.
Anywhere, anywhere. If they like it's on this mountain, I would love to hear that story, but I also know sometimes
Hmm.
these are very personal moments.
Yeah, that one I feel like it could sound like a proper trip. So probably not that nice to share, but in general, I feel like the spirits that come to the forefront the most often, actually, I feel like are spirits of the dead who are kind of merged with the land at this point, just living many centuries ago at this point and becoming one with the land spirits, but still being of human origin. I feel like whoever would like to come to Poland and try to connect to the land spirits, going to places of, some old cemeteries or like burial mounds and so on, I think it would be a fairly accessible entry point into connecting. And my experiences as well from a very young age were having such spirits come to me. So I have so many memories of having an individual experience where I would just meet a spirit by chance, either in nature or like an abandoned structure, either that's from like post World War II or not, but still they're just everywhere in the land. And I feel like they have a lot to teach. And I feel like on some level, other than my experiences very early on with one particular folkloric devil, I feel like that's what propelled me towards exploring, witchcraft and actually working with spirits at all. They are very vocal. I feel like they have so much to teach, especially about survival, and especially in times like this, now that we experience so much, upheaval everywhere and conflicts internationally. It's not easy out there in the world right now, right? They have so much to teach us about similar experiences that they had in their own times. Poland is a place that experienced a lot of war and a lot of people being displaced or moved here by force and so on. So I feel like that's maybe why the spirits of the dead who dwell in the land want to teach about this, because they really want humanity to grasp this lesson, for ourselves and maybe not repeat some cycles. So if anything, in times like this, I feel like this maybe would be one of the most important aspects that I can share now about working with, plant spirits here. That's what's distinct, because I don't travel a lot, I have to admit, but whenever I do travel, sometimes I am almost hit with this contrast, how other places maybe feel more peaceful in some ways. There's just not this stirring in the ground. You know what I mean? I know that maybe
Hmm.
it doesn't make sense to everybody who listens to this, but yeah, it's very distinct for Poland. I feel like this kind of stirring in the land that comes from the dead in particular.
So, what's interesting to me about Poland's energy that's very different from its neighboring countries. I haven't been to all the neighboring countries yet. Sadly, I've still not been to Lithuania, and that's really calling me. And Latvia is calling me, and there's a lot in the region I want to see. But a couple of years ago, I did a road trip from France back to Greece. And so I wanted to go through Hungary again because Hungary also has a very special energy.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
I just love it. I love it so much. But Serbia, we went all the way through. We saw the whole country and we spent a couple nights in Nice. It was so different. Like all of these countries were affected by atrocities. All of them had a terrible 1940s, 1930s, and difficult beyond that. Like really, it wasn't until Solidarity in the 70s that Poland spearheaded the fall of the Iron Curtain, which actually maybe that's a good place to even say this, but the Polish are resilient. They are very resilient.
Oh yeah.
Your culture does not take, this is on YouTube, so poop. It does not take it. You guys are all always stand up. But Serbia is like the opposite. It's such a different feeling. They're begging for Putin back there. It was the only time in my life, and I lived in the Middle East during the Arab Spring. It is the only time in my life I felt behind enemy lines was in Serbia. And they're so downtrodden. They've given up. They don't think they can save themselves. But Poland is about to surpass England in its GDP. Why? Why? What is it about Polish ways of being? And do you think this is a huge question, but do you think the land is participating in that? Like, even when people don't mean to connect with land, do you think there is something to the way the land supports your people?
Yeah, I always think it's interconnected. As an animist, I can't see it otherwise, you know. So I definitely think that the land is involved and always has been. In some way, as you say, we are very resilient for sure. And that definitely stems from history and just learning from experience where we were often, you could just say lightly, betrayed by, neighbors or people who supposedly wanted to help us, which is why I think we only rely on ourselves and what we have at our disposal instead of outsourcing that, if that makes sense, which is probably why what you just described is happening right now, that Poland is doing really well in terms of like fending for itself, I suppose, and protecting its culture and its people. Of course, it's not perfect. It's not perfect anywhere. So let's not romanticize that as well. But for sure, I think we prefer to be independent, sometimes to our own, detriment as well. It's not, again, all great, right? But when it comes to the land, I think this is very specific for Poland, and I don't see this in, let's say, like people from Western Europe, for example, that having a piece of land, even a tiny bit, and being able to work with it is something that most Polish people, at least up until like my generation, because it's also beginning to change now, like most people strive for in their life, just to have something to tend to. And like this really came up strongly, for example, during COVID, where people were, bound because of the lockdown and everything as it all began. I kid you not, like everybody who could started a garden or some type of working with the land to be able to survive this whole thing, And I think that really shows the Polish spirit, and just this is something that keeps us going, this kind of rootedness in where we are. So yeah, for sure, there's something to it, even if somebody doesn't acknowledge it consciously. It's definitely a thing.
Yeah, yeah. As somebody who travels a lot for my work, it is always striking to me the zeitgeist or the energy of the times that we're in. And that can span much longer. Like I always say to Americans, for Americans, World War II is some distant past thing that happened in Europe or Japan. Like they don't have a connection to it. Whereas if you go to England, in London, or you talk to anybody, it doesn't matter how old they are. They can be, 20 years old. They certainly weren't alive during World War II. It matters. It affects it's still in the zeitgeist there. The egregore is still very alive. Like you said, the spirits who were lost in those conflicts are still alive. And I feel that way in Poland. I feel that way in Hungary. There's that lingering energy of we must resist this is still strong. It just gives me goosebumps. And I think that fighting power is like kind of what's missing in the West. They've lost a lot of that. And I think also Western Europe, in the center of Europe, Germany particularly, there's a different feel of it of like, okay, this is behind us now. This is behind us now. And it is, they've done great strides to put that horror show to rest. But I can see how what's happening in America is happening because it's so remote for them. And I just wish we could get like that's what I'm hoping with, everything I do with Seeking Numina, not just the podcast, but on Instagram is to help people feel the zeitgeist of other places and know that there is a better way. And
Oh
the
yeah.
land wants us to live that better way. Like you said, the land is begging us to learn the lessons. It's speaking all the time.
Oh yeah. I really like what you said. And I also find myself sometimes speaking with friends about this, how I wish, because as you're saying, like the American culture is very young in comparison.
Yeah.
And
Baby.
because,
It's a
yeah,
toddler.
so, and also I was just speaking, like, I kid you not, like maybe 2 weeks ago about this with a friend, how I wish that we could give them these lessons that we have here to help them with the situation because they need it so badly. You can see that they are currently like learning it through their own strive for, getting out of that. And I wish I could do more, in a way to spread that message. So what you're sharing about being able to share the noumena of different places with people across the globe, I think that's a really beautiful mission, honestly. And we all need that to learn from each other, not just from where we are, but also just across the globe. There's, especially in today's time where we are so connected more than ever. So why this learning aspect isn't catching up with us as much as everything else that comes with this connection, right? I think it's really
Yes.
needed.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how as we figure out more what social media, because I feel like it's changing again. Like we have this wonderful sort of opportunity with AI to say, all right, I am done with curated this and that. I want to talk to a person. I want to hear their words. I want to read their Substack. I want to listen to their podcast. I think people really want the human to human. And I think that's going to be what is needed to bring that, yeah, kind of influence the American zeitgeist. The sad reality too is going to be the growing pains that need to happen. Like we need to let the kids fall on the playground so they can learn how to pick themselves back up. Except the kids aren't usually nations with this much power and weaponry. But it's
Yeah.
gonna work out. And I do really feel like the land is the key to everybody, like you said, learning the lessons. It has
Oh
all the
yeah.
lessons in the world.
Oh yeah. Beautifully said.
So before we go, tell everybody again where they can follow you and pre-order Polish folk magic.
Sure. So you can find me pretty much anywhere online as Polish Folk Witch. If you would like to learn from me up close, you can check out my Patreon, which is where I have most of the cool stuff. My book is coming out December 9th through Crossed Crow Books. You can currently pre-order it on their website, on the publisher's website, or in many websites where you normally find books. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I really appreciated our conversation.
Thank you for seeking Numina with me today. Join me at patreon.com/Elise Wells to support this show and get access to a library of rituals, exclusive videos, meditations, and more. To learn more about my upcoming retreats, book a tarot reading, or learn with me in workshops, classes, or mentorship, visit seekingnumina.com.